Good afternoon. This is Community Unity Now, the D Tycoon Show. My co-host, Bill Morton, president of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, can't make it today, but I am Trudy Leong, administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. Our very, very special guest today is Judge Jesse G. Reyes, and he is the Appellate Court, Illinois Appellate Court Judge. And Judge Reyes is running for Illinois Supreme Court Judge. Judge Reyes, welcome to our show.
Oh, thank you very much, Trudy. And you had my last name pronounced correctly, so yeah, I
Yes.
appreciate that. And it's a pleasure to be on your show, and I look forward to spending the next half hour or so with you.
Likewise. So, Judge, first of all, what is your specialty in law? I know that you have to know a little bit about everything, but what is your specialty?
Yes. So my specialty, if you could describe it as such, is basically being a generalist. When I came on the bench, I volunteered to serve in any capacity as possible. I went to the chief judge and I said, if anybody retires, calls in sick, goes on vacation, or passes away, and they needed somebody to fill in, that I would be more than happy to do so. And so they took me up on that offer, and for the first few years while I was on the bench, I had an opportunity to sit in a variety of different assignments. I sat in virtually every branch court that was in existence at the time in the late 90s in the Circuit Court of Cook County, and it was a great experience for me because I got to learn a lot of different areas of the law. I had the experience of being an administrator in a variety of different courtrooms, and then I also had the opportunity to also gather some experience that would not have been available to me otherwise. So I enjoyed that, and then eventually I went on to work at Markham, the Markham Courthouse, and had the great opportunity there of hearing misdemeanor matters, some felonies. So I had an opportunity to learn there as well in the suburban courtrooms, and then after being there for a while in Markham, came back to the Daly Center, and at that point in time, the chief judge had asked me if I would help with some matters that were overburdening the Chancery Division, and I said sure, I would be happy to volunteer. That was only supposed to be six weeks. It turned into more than that. It actually turned into years because the cases that were overburdening the Chancery Division were the mortgage foreclosures cases, and it was right at the height of the crisis when I entered into that division. It eventually became its own section and became known as the Mortgage Foreclosure Mechanics Lien Section. I and a couple other judges volunteered at first, and then it expanded to include 10 judges when I left in 2012.
Wasn't there a backlog of about 8,000 cases or so?
Yes. So at the height of the crisis, we had 10 judges, and each judge had about 8,000 cases. Wow. So we had over 80,000 cases in Cook County. At the height of the financial crisis, Cook County alone had the second highest number of foreclosure cases in the country. The first area that had the most was Detroit. So it started out with residential foreclosures, and then it became commercial foreclosures. But when I was there as well, I had the great opportunity of hearing mechanics lien cases. So I tried, or I should say, a few of those cases were tried in front of me. So I had an opportunity to try mechanics lien cases and foreclosure cases before I went on the appellate court. And one of the things that your viewers should know is that in the appellate court in Illinois, what's fascinating about that assignment is that everything that is tried or heard at the trial court level or administrative hearings and things of that nature, they come to the appellate court. Unlike other jurisdictions where the courts are divided, you'll have an appellate court that's only hearing criminal cases, and you'll have an appellate court that only hears civil cases. In Illinois, the appellate court hears everything, criminal and civil. And that's why I kind of said that, it's kind of being a generalist in a way, because you never know what's going to come through the door, which is what makes the work in the appellate court fascinating, because it may be a criminal case, it may be a civil case, it may be an involved civil case with some very intricate matters that are associated with the issues. So it's interesting work, and I've enjoyed my experience as a judge.
What was your first year as a judge?
My first year as a judge was interesting because I was in traffic court, but then I was going out to other assignments. I traveled out to Grand and Central. I was at Belmont and Western, hearing preliminary matters, preliminary hearings, misdemeanors and felonies. So I had a great opportunity in my first year to sit in a variety.
Do you still remember what year it was? How many
I came on the bench in '97.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was December 2nd, 1997 when I came on the bench, and as everybody starts off in traffic court, I started out in traffic court.
Oh.
One of the things that I've always worked on in terms of my position as a judge is being a judge on and off the bench. And also being a public servant on and off the bench. So what I try to do is I try to inform the public with regards to some of the issues that come into the court, and how to prepare to come into the court, how to know how to address some of the issues that they may be dealing with.
Do you try to teach them how to avoid even having to be in a position of having to go to court in the first place?
Well, in a way, yes. So, for example, when I was in traffic court, one of the things that I noticed was that there were a lot of individuals who were coming into court that really didn't understand what was taking place. They acted like they knew what they were doing, but at the same time, it seemed like they really didn't understand what was going on. And these were people that really didn't speak the English language, and they were predominantly Spanish-speaking and Polish-speaking individuals. So I, along with some of the individuals that were working in the traffic court, developed a DVD program that informed the public of their rights, that informed them of what the consequences were, particularly of driving without a driver's license, driving without wearing a seatbelt, and then also driving under the influence. And we started out with a DVD that was in Spanish, and so we informed the public of the consequences of that, and we kind of did it for those who are familiar with the Spanish novellas. We did it kind of in a Spanish novella format, so it kind of grabbed people's attention, and they would be able to be maybe attracted and entertained by it, but at the same time we were providing them with necessary information. And then it was also
still available?
The DVDs, for those that have the means of watching DVDs, yeah, they are still available. Then the other one was,
we should put them on YouTube so more people could access it.
Yes,
it
we
sounds
should.
like a good program.
I mean, some of it is dated because at the end of the DVD, what we had was like all the various fines and fees that you would
they would change.
that they were charged back then in the late '90s. But yeah, it should be updated. And then it was also in Polish. And then we did another one, the circuit court did another one with regards to young people, kind of did it more like, with rap music and things of that nature, to kind of inform them of the consequences of, driving under the influence, or, what would happen to you if, you were stopped and you were under the influence. So that was one of the things that, that I was involved in. When I was in the foreclosure section, one of the opportunities to go out into the public was to inform the public about their rights in foreclosure court. Particularly in the residential foreclosures, a lot of people did not have lawyers. So we went around the county and we informed individuals that you have a right to an attorney. You have a right to look at the documents that are presented.
But what if they can't afford an attorney? They have a right to an attorney, but if they can't afford one, then how do they work with that?
If they didn't have an attorney, then the circuit court provided what was known as a help desk. So people could come in and they could go to the help desk, explain to them the situation, what was going on with their particular foreclosure case. And then at the help desk, they would at least try to provide them with some assistance and maybe some guidance, and if possible, some advice. And I think that was very useful and very, very helpful, because at least they had an understanding when they walked into court what to expect. And unfortunately,
And did you implement those programs to inform the public about foreclosures as well?
Well, yes, the public forums that we went out throughout the county, yeah, I implemented those through a foundation that I have that's called the Diversity Scholarship Foundation. We established that in the early 2000s because we saw that there was a lack of diversity in the legal profession. And so one of the components of our foundation is to inform the public with regards to some of the issues that come to court that maybe they're not aware of, that they could maybe utilize information to help them further their case or their cause. Because I think it's always important that the more information you provide the public, I think the better it is that they could be able to walk in and have the appropriate information that might help them, resolve their case. So the other programs in terms of the help desk and everything else, that was developed under Chief Judge Evans. He developed a help desk along with the supervisor in the mortgage foreclosure mechanics lien section, which was Judge Lewis Nixon. And then one of the other things that we did in the foreclosure section was because we had so many cases, and particularly the defaults, which were the ones that were pertaining to residential foreclosure. I implemented what was known as the Judicial Extern Program, and that allowed law students to get experience working with judges, but at the same time they were assisting the judges by reviewing the documents, because the statute provided that the lenders had to have certain documents in order to proceed with their foreclosure. So, for example, you had to have the mortgage, you had to have the note. If the mortgage had been assigned, you have to have the assignment, and then the affidavit that indicates the amounts were accurate, true and accurate, that were in default.
So they were like, the externs were like law clerks, or how were they the two
they
different?
They were like law clerks. They were law students. Most of them were already in their second year, and so we would have them assist the judges. And at one point in time, we had as many as 25 to 30 law clerks, or law students assisting us reviewing the documents. And one of the things that I'm proud of now that some of them I stay in touch with, now they've all gone on to have very successful careers. And one of the things they always comment about is what they learned. One of the skills and abilities they learned is when they're reviewing these documents is that the close attention to detail that lawyers need to pay attention to when they're reviewing documents and also preparing documents. So I think that was a benefit that we were able to provide them.
Is there a lot of copy and pasting in legal documents, but then you have to change the details?
Yes, a lot of times, I know, there are some details that have to be changed in the documents, yes. And so you have to pay close attention to the documents to make sure that they're in compliance with the statute, or they're in compliance with the letter of the law, in terms of whatever the issue is that is pertaining to the case. And then one of the other things that I'm proud of is the fact that in the appellate court, as chair of the appellate court, we implemented some reforms and some changes to some of our documents that have helped provide better access to the appellate court.
Oh, what kind of access?
Well,
access?
for example, with the Safety Act coming into place, one of the things that I did as chair is I got all the stakeholders, which was the state's attorney, the public defender, the court reporters, the clerk, and all the presiding judges together to start talking about how they were going to proceed with these cases. Because in Cook County, we anticipate that there's going to be a large number of these cases coming through the system. And so we wanted to start making sure that everybody was talking to everybody, which is one of the most important things. You know, state's attorney talking to the appellate defenders, and the presiding judges talking with the clerk and the court reporters to make sure that they all understood that this was a team effort. You know, it's an advocacy. You know, so the lawyers are going to be advocating for their clients, but at the same time, there's certain procedural things that needed to be implemented to make sure that the process goes through smoothly.
Right. Isn't there training too for the judges and for many of the parties?
Yes. So every 2 years, the appellate court, for example, has to go to an education conference along with some of the other judges, and then there are other programs that have been implemented, which provides educational information to judges. And now, since we are in the age of the internet, and so a lot of these programs can actually be viewed by judges and lawyers in the comfort of their own offices, so they don't have to go to a conference center or go to a physical building. They could just go onto the website and view these programs.
And the Pretrial Fairness Act, so the elimination of the money bond, that program, the judges and a lot of the court officials have to get some training on that too, right?
Yes. So it's the stay that was implemented by the Supreme Court is going to be lifted on September 18th, 2023. And then at that point in time, the cases are going to start proceeding. And so right now, around the state, many of the judges are having training programs and with regards to having the hearings, how the hearings are going to be conducted, and what's going to take place during the hearing, and what are the requirements under the law. Right,
there's like a lot of requirements, like 3 or so requirements, right? Justifications in order to not have a money bond.
Right, and one of the things that also you should be aware of is that in Cook County, these cases are going to be treated a little bit differently than they are around the state.
Also.
So in Cook County, the public defender who's representing the individual, if the person is indigent, will be filing the notice of appeal. So if the trial judge were to say that they're going to detain the defendant, and the public defender at that point in time could file what's known as a notice of appeal, attach the record to this notice of appeal, and any memorandum that they may have to support the basis for having the appellate court overturn the trial judge. They will file that notice of appeal with the appellate court, and then the appellate court will then consider the memorandum and any other supporting documents that they may have, also providing the state with an opportunity to file a response. And this is all, to be done within the time frame that has been set out by the statute and by the Supreme Court.
So while the appeal is being adjudicated, where is the detainee? Is he or she allowed to be out, or is the person detained?
It depends. I mean, if, let's say, the trial judge determines that the defendant is to be detained, then they will be detained in custody and most likely at the Cook County Correctional Facility.
Until the appeal plays out.
Right. If the court indicates that the individual can be released, then the state's attorney will file a notice of appeal, and then the appellate court will make a determination whether or not that person should have been released or not.
Wow.
And then all this is supposed to be done within a short amount of time, and so Cook County is going to be doing it a little bit more differently than the rest of the state. In the rest of the state, they're going to be treating them like actual appeals. They're going to be filing briefs. And then the other side gets to file a response and then a reply, and that takes a little bit more in time. But
what about there's so much paperwork and so much detail to every case. Do you have law clerks or externs helping the judges with these kind of cases?
Yes, yeah. I mean, in the appellate court, we have law clerks who assist us, and it depends on the judges. Each individual judge has a different way of working with their law clerks. For example, some justices on the appellate court, for example, have clerks that only handle criminal cases, and then another one that only handles civil. I believe in having my law clerks be well-rounded. They handle criminal and civil, because when they move on from working with me, I like to have them to have the experience and the opportunity to be a little more, well-versed.
So you give them a chance to work on every kind of case.
Every kind of case.
How long do they stay with you?
Well, I usually, when I interview a clerk, I ask them for 2 years if they're new, because the way I look at it is the first year they're learning, and then the second year at least I get a little benefit from their work. But then it depends. I don't necessarily push them out the door after 2 years. If they want to stay a little bit longer, they may do so.
What about earlier when you mentioned that you're trying to help the people that like they speak Spanish and they're not well versed in court matters? Then you speak Spanish. Do you ever speak with the defendant or in Spanish? And if so, is the stenographer able to type that up as well?
Sure. So no, I do speak Spanish, and so I do not speak Spanish in the courtroom. I do not speak Spanish from the bench.
You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to, right?
Well, I mean, you're not allowed to, but the other part of it is the perception. So if someone's sitting there and they see me say something in Spanish to a defendant, and they don't understand Spanish, the perception is they might think that, I'm trying to help this individual or give them favorable treatment. So, that's why we have, court interpreters. We have individuals that are certified in the court system to interpret for the person that's in front of the bench. So yeah, I do speak Spanish, but again, when I go out into the community, when I try to inform them of issues that are coming up, for example, when the TVDLs came out, the temporary driver license, visitor's driver's license, I made it an effort to go out into the community and inform the public about the TVDLs, because it affected, a lot of people presume that it only affected people that speak Spanish, but actually affected a variety of different communities. And for example, in the Asian community, we had members from the Asian American Bar Association who came out with us and spoke to individuals that only spoke Mandarin or Cantonese or whatever other Asian language, because it's important for them to understand, what the TVDLs were, because when they first came out, people thought, oh, this is a way for, the government to try to, to grab you and to, deport you. But it was actually a means by which to provide people an opportunity to have a driver's license and to be able to get insurance. So, in those instances, when I was out in the community, Spanish-speaking community, I would speak Spanish.
Okay. So you are running for Illinois Supreme Court Justice now.
Yes.
Do you have to get the petition signatures as well?
Yes. Everybody who runs for an elective office, regardless of if it's the governor or judge, they have to get the petitions signed by the registered voters in the county or wherever they're running. So in my particular race, it's Cook County, so I would have to get signatures from people that live within Cook County.
Have they started yet? Are you starting?
Actually, today is the first day.
Okay.
So petitions can be effectively circulated today.
And how many signatures do you need?
Well, you need about 4,300 for the Supreme Court. Approximately, it's a little bit less than that. So that's the minimum amount of signatures you need for the Illinois Supreme Court. And every office has its own minimum number of petitions that are required.
We're almost out of time. Could you tell us real quickly about what you have accomplished as a judge that separates you from the accomplishments of the incumbent and any other opponents that you might have?
Well, I think what I bring, with all due respect to anybody else who runs in the race, what I bring is a passion for the law. I bring a passion to make sure that people are well informed, to providing access to justice. As I indicated before, when I was in traffic court, when I was in the Chancery Division and in the Appellate Court, I've always worked to try to implement programs that provide access to justice to individuals, to make sure that they understand what is going on in their courtrooms, in their courthouses, because I truly believe that the courtrooms and the courthouses belong to the people. They don't belong to one particular person. They don't belong to one particular institution. It's the people's court, and I am privileged to be able to serve the people.
Are you doing more outreach than, let's say, into the community than your opponents? Would you say?
I couldn't tell you what my opponents are doing, but I've always been very involved in the community. I've always been out there speaking to a variety of different members of the public. One of the things that I'm proud of is that I have been recognized by a variety of different bar associations, ethnic bar associations, religious bar associations, for my work in trying to diversify and to create inclusion in the legal profession and the community at large. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I'm very, very proud of. That my work has been recognized for around the years.
Okay, thank you so much, Judge Jesse G. Reyes, Appellate Court Judge who is running for Illinois Supreme Court Justice. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Community Unity Now, and I am Trudy Leong. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and see you next week.
Thank you, Trudy.